World Team Trials is coming up May 21st, and I want to talk about 61 kilograms. I think it's super interesting. I think there's a ton of storylines to get ready for, and I think there's 3 or 4 guys who have a really good chance of coming out on top. But first things first, we have Vito Arujau already sitting in Final X because he won the US Open. Has had such an impressive, last 2 months with 1 NCAAs and then blitzed through the field, tagged Austin DeSanto in the finals. And so Vito is sitting in Final X waiting for the winner of the World Team Trials Challenge Tournament. So winner at 61 will go and meet Vito for a spot on the World Team. But let's talk about the World Team Trials. The field that we're going to have at 61, it's super, super deep, and we can look at all these guys and kind of project the seeds and talk about who we think is going to come out on top. So first up, I believe Austin DeSanto is going to be the 1 seed. I want to talk about the top 3 guys first and then get into the challengers. So I think it's going to be Austin DeSanto as the 1, Seth Gross as the 2, and Dayton Fix, who we didn't see at the Open, as the 3. First up, Austin DeSanto. He's had just a really good past year in freestyle. He's beaten guys who have been ranked in the world, and so Austin DeSanto finds himself like number 10, number 11 ranked in the world right now. And so at the US Open, we saw his progression where he was able to tech Joe Colon, past world medalist, and then he beat Seth Gross, the world team member from last year who took 5th. Austin DeSanto beats both those guys, makes the final. He does come up short against Vito, but DeSanto has really proven to be a guy who is dangerous in freestyle, and he can come out on top in this bracket for sure. A couple things that make him really, really tough are his forward pressure. He's really good at using his forward pressure to get step outs. He still has that dump, but he's cleaned up his finishes. He's not giving up, exposures like the way that he used to when he first got on the freestyle scene. And so DeSanto, he is certainly a threat, and I believe he'll be sitting up there at the 1 seed. And then you have Seth Gross. Seth Gross narrowly lost to Austin DeSanto. It was a 5-4 match, but we saw him last year really make a breakout when he upset Dayton Fix in that 3-match series. And Seth, he really figured out how to wrestle Dayton Fix, wrestle him from those underhooks, kind of force the whizzer too from the overhook position. And so Seth Gross has really figured out how to wrestle Dayton Fix, and I believe Gross and Fix will be sitting at that 2 and 3, and so they'll likely meet in the semis. And we saw Gross beat Dayton 2 matches last year, and so you got to believe he's the favorite in this matchup once again against Dayton Fix. And so Seth Gross, he didn't just figure out how to beat Dayton Fix. He also figured out how to beat a lot of the top guys in the world, and he wrestled for a medal in Serbia last year. He came up short, took 5th, but he's a guy who can very well challenge for another world medal, and I really would like to see how he matches up. He's really tricky, matches up with Vito. Gross is really tricky when guys get in on his legs. He has unique style of offense, and he's really good at putting together a game plan. And so Seth Gross, if he wrestles Austin DeSanto again, I might actually favor Gross. Last year, Gross lost to Nico Megaludis at the US Open, and then he comes back at the World Team Trials and he pins Nico. And so we've seen Gross make adjustments from match to match against the same opponent and have really different results. He got teched by Dayton Fix 2 years ago and then comes out and beats him in the best of 3 series. But then there's Dayton Fix. Dayton Fix, a guy we haven't seen in freestyle since Final X last year, and Dayton in freestyle, his potential is world championship. He won a world silver 2 years ago in Oslo, and doesn't make the team last year, but that doesn't take away from what he can do on the freestyle mats. He is very dynamic in both his neutral game and once he gets on top. And that's the difference maker for Dayton. If he can get on top of some of these guys, he can just roll them up. And that's what we saw him do in Oslo, teched his way to the finals, to the world finals. And so Dayton is a guy who, you know, you look at him against Austin DeSanto, I think he was 3-0 against him in his college career. And then also if you look at him against Vito, looking all the way ahead, Dayton, it may have been like 3 or 4 years ago, but he has teched Vito Arujau in freestyle. And so Dayton Fix, you know, I said Seth Gross might be the favorite, or Austin DeSanto. Dayton Fix might be the favorite here too. And if Dayton's wrestling 100%, I don't think it's a question. He's the best freestyle wrestler in this bracket. If he wrestles to his potential, if he gets on top, Dayton Fix is the best guy in this bracket, hands down. But then kind of going down the list. So our favorites are Austin DeSanto, Seth Gross, Dayton Fix. And that is a really, really solid top 3. All those guys are ranked in the top 10 in the world at 61 kilograms. And so you have 3 guys ranked the top 10, 12 in the world. But then as you go down, you really see the depth in this weight. You have, I believe it's going to be Nahshon as the 4, Nathan Tomasello as the 5, Joe Colon as the 6, and then Aiden Valencia, high schooler, as the 7. So Nahshon Garrett, he's a guy who he made the world team in 2018 and then got hurt, wasn't able to go, and then that's when Joe Colon took his place, and Colon comes out, gets a world medal. But Nahshon Garrett, his offense is so dynamic, and it's so quick that he can put up points in a hurry. And so Nahshon Garrett wrestled Austin DeSanto earlier this year, and he got out to like a quick 8-0 lead. Looked like he was just going to tech him, and eventually Austin DeSanto uses his pace, wears him down, and I think he won 14-13 over Nahshon. But that match, you know, if they wrestle it again, it's a toss-up, and really Nahshon has the offensive ability to shut down someone like Austin DeSanto and put him away quickly. And so if he is the 4 seed, that means he'd meet Austin DeSanto in the semis. And the other thing about Nahshon Garrett is I think he's 3-0 against Seth Gross in freestyle. So if Nahshon is the 4, DeSanto is the 1, Nahshon can beat DeSanto, and Seth Gross, if Gross beats Fix, now you're looking at a final where Nahshon Garrett, Seth Gross, Nahshon's undefeated against Gross in freestyle. So, you know, Nahshon could walk away from this weekend as the champ and go to Final X. And then you have Nathan Tomasello. Nathan Tomasello, he has wins over Joe Colon and Nahshon Garrett in freestyle. So he has a path to the finals. We haven't seen him against Austin DeSanto in freestyle or Seth Gross, but if Nato's on that other side and he has to go through Nahshon or DeSanto, it's certainly a path that he could navigate. And then there's Joe Colon, the only other guy aside from Dayton Fix who has a world medal in this bracket. Joe Colon, you know, he can be really tricky from, you know, that front headlock position, or once he gets on top with a gut wrench, he can certainly, you know, put guys away, and he can compete with any of these guys in this bracket. And then finally, Aiden Valencia, who he might be a high schooler, but he beat national team member Daniel DeShazer at the U.S. Open. He gave Joe Colon all he could handle. It was like a 13-11 match. So Aiden Valencia, you could certainly see him maybe not winning, but he could take out one of these more veteran type guys and really give some of these guys a problem. Aiden Valencia only lost to Austin DeSanto 3-0 at the U.S. Open. So those are the guys who are currently registered. But then we haven't even mentioned the guys from 57. They could come up and they could also enter. So guys like Nick Suriano or Patrick Glory or Jacob Camacho, they could all enter this weight, and that would really, you know, throw a wrench into things. You know, you look at a guy like Nick Suriano who beat Dayton Fix in the NCAA finals in 2019, and he also has wins. A win over Joe Colon and Austin DeSanto in college. So Nick Suriano, I don't know if he's gonna enter or not, but if he does, like, he could win this bracket as well. And so there's a number of ways, you could look at 61 kilograms and like, man, this is so interesting. What if Austin DeSanto makes Final X? Or, could Dayton Fix go on another run? And could he make the world team again and challenge for a world medal, world title? What does Dayton Fix versus Vito Arujau look like in freestyle? We saw it in folk style a couple months ago, but now Dayton Fix, he could be looking for revenge. But then there's Seth Gross. Could he knock off Dayton Fix once again, kind of spoil his run at a world team? And Garrett, will he finally get his chance at the world championship? So, like I said, number of different ways to look at it. It's a super, super interesting way. I'm super excited about it. Again, this goes down, World Team Trials Challenge Tournament, May 21st. It's on FloWrestling. You're not going to want to miss it. Start to finish, going to be an incredible bracket.